The annual work party at my wife's marketing firm was always a big deal. Glitzy, loud, and packed with ambitious types networking over cocktails. My wife, Sarah, had been with the company for 2 years, thriving under the pressure of her demanding boss, Richard Caldwell. He was the kind of guy who commanded a room. Tall, polished, with a handshake that felt like a power move. Sarah warned me he could be intense, but I wasn't worried. I'm just a quiet guy who runs a small carpentry business, or so everyone thought. I liked blending into the background at these events, sipping a beer and letting Sarah shine. But this time, Richard had other plans. We arrived at the venue, a sleek rooftop bar downtown, with city lights sprawling below. Sarah was radiant in a navy dress, working the room like a pro. I stuck to the sidelines, chatting with a few of her colleagues about nothing in particular. Weather, sports, the usual. Richard spotted me from across the room, his eyes narrowing like he'd just noticed an intruder. Sarah had mentioned he was territorial about his team, but I didn't expect him to zero in on me. He strode over, glass in hand, and introduced himself with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "You're Sarah's husband, right? The woodworker." His tone dripped with condescension, like my job was a quaint hobby. I nodded, keeping it polite. "Yeah, that's me. Nice party." But Richard wasn't done. He leaned in, his voice loud enough to draw a few glances. "Must be tough, keeping up with someone like Sarah. Her star's rising fast here." It was a jab, subtle but sharp, implying I was somehow lesser. A couple of Sarah's co-workers shifted uncomfortably, sensing the tension. I could have let it slide, most guys would, but something about his smug grin rubbed me wrong. Sarah caught my eye from across the room, her expression a mix of worry and warning. I just smiled and took a sip of my drink. Richard kept going, clearly enjoying himself. "So, what do you do all day?" "Carve tables while Sarah's out here closing deals." A few people chuckled, thinking it was harmless banter. I could feel the room's attention on me, waiting for my response. I set my glass down, calm as ever, and said, "Something like that. But I keep busy." What Richard didn't know, what almost no one there knew, was that carpentry was just my side gig. By day, I'm a cybersecurity consultant, one of the best in the region, with clients like the firm hosting this very party. I've been contracted to secure their systems after a data breach last year, but I kept my name off the reports. Anonymity suited me. I decided to have a little fun. "Actually, Richard," I said, loud enough for the small crowd around us to hear, "I dabble in tech too. Ever hear about the firm's server issues last spring? Nasty breach." His smirk faltered, just for a second. "I know a guy who helped fix it," I continued, casual as anything. "Said it was a mess, weak firewalls, outdated encryption. Took weeks to clean up." Richard's face tightened. He'd taken credit for overseeing that recovery, but I knew he'd barely understood the tech. Sarah's eyes widened. She knew where this was going and mouthed, "Don't." But I was already committed. Richard tried to regain control. "Well, good thing we've got it handled now. My team's on top of everything." He clapped my shoulder, a bit too hard, like he was dismissing me. I didn't flinch. "Glad to hear it," I said, locking eyes with him. "But if you ever need a real expert, I can pass along some names. I know people who've saved companies like yours from going under." The air around us stilled. A couple of Sarah's co-workers exchanged glances, sensing the shift. Richard's smile was gone now, replaced by a calculating stare. He didn't know who I was, but he knew I wasn't just some woodworker anymore. Sarah swooped in, all charm, redirecting the conversation to some campaign her team was launching. The crowd dispersed, and Richard excused himself to check on the catering. But the damage was done. Later, as we grabbed our coats, Sarah pulled me aside. "What was that?" she hissed. I shrugged, playing innocent. "Just making conversation." She wasn't buying it. "You embarrassed him in front of everyone." "He's my boss, Tom." I felt a pang of guilt. She was right. I'd let my ego get the better of me. But I couldn't help it. The guy had come at me like I was nobody, and I wasn't about to let that slide. The next week at work, Sarah said Richard was colder than usual, nitpicking her reports and leaving her out of a key meeting. She didn't blame me outright, but I could tell she was frustrated. I apologized, promising to stay out of her office politics from now on. To make amends, I offered to take her team out for drinks, keeping my consultant side under wraps. She agreed, but only if I swore not to pick fights with Richard again. I laughed and promised, though I couldn't resist a private smirk at the thought of his face when he realized I wasn't just Sarah's husband. A month later, I got a call from the firm's IT director, a guy I'd worked with on the breach. Apparently, Richard had been asking around about me, trying to figure out who I really was. The IT guy laughed, saying Richard was paranoid I'd hacked his reputation. I told him to keep my name quiet. I didn't need the spotlight. But it felt good knowing Richard was sweating, wondering just how much I knew. Sarah's career survived my little stunt, and she even got a promotion a few months later. Richard, though, he's been a lot less cocky at company events since. Looking back, I probably should have let his comments slide. But there's something satisfying about watching a guy like that realize he's not the biggest fish in the room. Sarah and I are fine, and I've learned to keep my secret identity in check at her work parties. Still, I keep my ears open. If Richard steps up again, I'll be ready, with or without my carpentry tools.